I have a question.
Yes,
Have you
shoot.
you experienced like like telepathy, like people starting to realize what you're thinking?
I swear I had that about 17 minutes ago, maybe. It's not like Sanet's going to be online and she's going to ask that question. No, it was more like if I'm having that thought, then then something must have brought that thought to me. And so um, maybe where I've been confused is in the, the time delay. And
Yeah.
however, now there is like there's like no time delay. It's like, oh well, 17 minutes. In the grand scheme of things, I reckon 17 minutes is not a big deal. Um, so, what is your experience, Sanette? Because you obviously have a pressing question there for why you have that.
Oh, just because, and it's weird because it's like there's an awareness about that now, and it's interesting because from my own experience, I've I've always known it, but we have created a narrative around it. Like I think all of these things have always been there, but in a funny way, it feels like some of the programming is just lifting, and we're starting to see things for what they really are. And it wasn't just that. Now that I'm conscious of it, I'm starting to realize. Like, remember, Ari, you and I spoke about that once, where you said, imagine you. I think you said there's going to be a come a time where we're going to see exactly what everybody's thinking right now.
Yep.
Because it's happened, and that's crazy.
Yeah, the
And
idea of privacy. So, like having privacy and having your own private thoughts, and
yeah,
uh,
but and so the scary thing is that the reality of we are reading each other's minds. We actually all the time knows exactly what's going on in someone else's mind.
Mm,
But there's a time delay, like you were saying, Laura. And I
mm,
think we have created a social norm around it, like a social structure of a forgetting or a masking of it.
mm.
Because it's scary.
yeah, it's a scary thing. Well, it's fear and doubt
Yeah,
because we
yeah, yeah.
doubt ourselves that it happens. So, or first we doubt that it's actually possible, then we think it's impolite, and then we doubt ourselves that it's actually true. So,
Mm.
and then, and when that kicks in, it's like, oh no, obviously that was just coincidence or whatever you want to call it. So, but I think it's also with the increased awareness
Mm.
and also the level of telepathy, of our understanding of telepathy. So we think like, okay, if I'm going to telepathically communicate with you, you're going to hear my voice in your head, and I'm going to hear your voice in my head. And like the audio side of it, clear audience is a different thing. So telepathy can be on a lot subtler level, just sharing pictures or sharing ideas or sharing concepts or just sharing feelings.
Different modes of interpretation, right? Yeah, and so there's social constructs as well, right? If we were to be in a certain frame of, let's say, awareness states, um, I wouldn't want anyone reading my thoughts right now because I can't even control them, so like 12 billion thoughts going through my head and they, range from pretty to not so pretty. And so if if I were in a level of awareness where I had shame and fear and opinions and judgments and points of view, and then on that level, I wouldn't want anyone to be perceiving my thoughts, right? However, if I was, for example, like as light as a feather, or was able to control my thoughts, then pure versus impure, for example, then it wouldn't matter who could read my thoughts, right? But at the moment, I still have opinions and points of view and judgments and levels of thoughts. And does that make sense?
I think it's a level of the illusion of separation. Because I think telepathy is in the subconscious. So when we're talking like on a subconscious level, we read a lot of the signs. So we're picking up things or information on all levels, unfiltered into the subconscious. So we'll pick up the body language, the attitude, the expression, micro expressions, but we also pick up the energy field, like what the emotional state of somebody, and we can sense what's happening mentally as well, because you can feel the sense when somebody's like rushing and thinking a lot, or when they're quiet, or when they've got something on their mind. So it's using all those senses, the physical, emotional, thought, and subconscious are all opening up and being less filtered. And I think that would be a natural progression for us as our awareness increases. And I think, at some point, it's going to get really interesting as our awareness grows and we're picking up more and more of like this ability to use telepathy to communicate with each other, or not that we're not doing it naturally already, but we become aware of that as a tool and we start practicing and using it. What then might surprise us is like all the negative thoughts or bad thoughts or whatever, that it's actually going through everybody's heads. Or a lot of people's, I won't say everybody, but a lot of people's heads. But the mind as a thought machine is just coming up with and picking up ideas and like a antenna and just broadcasting and switching radio stations. When we start becoming aware of those, it might actually normalize our own thought process. And then it's not that scary or that dark or that light or that unique.
Well, I had a thought just come to me, don't know whose. I'm joking now. So what is the essence of the again, for lack of a better word, the frequency, right? The temperature of that environment. Whereas, because there's 8 billion people in the world and we all have different experiences, right? So it could be a mugging over here, it could be a collapse of a building over there, it could be whatever the drama is, but what is the actual essence of that, of those threads, right? And in that way, if we turn that around and just extract the concept or the essence, then that is reading the field or reflecting the field, right? Or like our projection. Because we could say, oh my God, that's so disastrous. But if we actually look back at ourselves and go, oh, yeah, I judged myself here, or I had an opinion about something, earlier today, or so it's just, yeah, it's really just a mirror, really.
Well, the whole thing is that we're in the essence, all of us.
Yeah.
And we know everything that's in there. So that is that on the deepest level is who we are.
Mm.
So that, whatever you want to call it, energy field, quantum field, ether, whatever connection, or just the mental mind field that we're connected to, or unified field, any whatever words you want to use for that. We are in that essence. So naturally, we will pick up everything in that essence. And that's why what I said that like a couple of years ago, we were talking as like, as we progress and we become more aware and we lift our vibration, we will start moving into more coherence with that essence. So it's less than, it's not as much talking or using telepathy as just having the same understanding at a deeper level. Okay, take it from that essence. If we use that as a fundamental acceptance that we're all connected to one essence and we all can pick everything up in that field, then as you separate down and as you limit it, then you limit to like human thoughts and things, all the drama, but also the good stuff. So yeah, the TV is full of drama, but percentage of that in the world is very, very small. It's not that 80% of the world is at war and you in the only little peaceful bit. It's like, no, 99% of the world is actually peaceful and 1% is at war. Even when we call it world wars, it's not, everybody's not in that war. So the overwhelming essence of it is still of peace and goodness and kindness and family. And yeah, there is drama and pain and events and all those kind of things. But the big question then, as you come down the level, is which thoughts are mine? And that's very interesting when you start watching that. It's like, I have all these thoughts, but okay, which ones are mine? Which thoughts am I actually consciously thinking of? And which ones are just repetitions, ruminations, or other people's ideas that's filtering into my field of into my thought field that I believe is my own thoughts.
My question was, is it that, like, I could be pondering that question and like, I don't know if that's actually my thought or picking it up from the field. And is it a case of like, what's that phrase? That which cannot be named, right? Like that 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 internal knowing that you just know, but until you get there, you can't, you don't know.
Yeah, so it's as we get to know ourselves better, then those thoughts, you'll get a feel for it or a knowing of like, okay, that's my thought. Or because when you check through the rest of the senses, it's like, okay, what's my body doing? What's my emotions doing? What's my thoughts doing? What's my subconscious? What am I picking up in the subconscious? By running through that, and of course the superconscious, how connected am I to myself, my real self? If you run through that, you quickly get a sense of like, okay, that thought fits into that picture. And sometimes there's another thought that comes and is kind of like, but that doesn't fit into that picture. For example, you have like you're having a good day, everything's like physically you're right, everything is fine. Emotionally, you just chilled. Subconsciously, you're not really plugging in. Superconsciously, you're quite aware of who and like where you are, and you're in quite a content space. And then all of a sudden, there's a thought of you're not good enough, or the world's going to hell, or whatever it is. And it's like, okay, that's interesting. So once again, notice, acknowledge. So, okay, there was that thought. First of all, it's not to claim it as my thought. You just say there was a thought. That thought was like, the world's going to hell. Now, I can engage with it. I can claim that as my own. And I can really spiral down that whole, everything is like, everything is just bad. Everything, there's no good in the world. There's just whatever it is. It's just the end are nigh. And you can spiral down that very quickly from a very calm, content state into that serious existential angst. So, and the possibility was that thought wasn't even yours, that you picked up a story like somebody was having a moment and you picked up on that, which we normally say is empathy. But because it's just in the field and not a specific person, if we met a depressed person or whatever, we could understand where that thought comes from. And we could deal with that thought by trying to lift the other person out or um, help them a little bit. But that puts it in place for us. But if it's just out of the blue, then it's just a blue thought. But we also have the choice to just let it be and let that thought run. So it's like, oh, yeah, well, obviously, the world is the end of the world as we know it, but it has been for the last 10,000 years. And if you can watch 20 years new or 50 years news programs and they say exactly the same thing, you can watch 10 years in the future's news programs and they're still going to be focusing on fear. So do I want to claim that as my own? Do I want to own that as my thought? Do I want to take it personally and become depressed and whatever? That's the power of being aware of the nine senses and having the tool to know that you can notice, acknowledge certain emotions, feelings, thoughts, subconscious, like uh, telepathic information coming into your field, or unity information, spiritual information coming into your field. Does that make sense?
Sure. You gotta wait for Laura to catch up. Yeah.
Well, she's 17 minutes ahead, so it's all right. We're catching up to her.
Only on that example.
I thought you just like you got a pre-delay of 17 minutes on all of us, so we just have to like catch up
No,
quickly. Yeah, I just got like about a 10-year delay. It's like 10 years after the conversation. It's like, yeah, okay, now I get what they were talking about. There is that. Bit slow. But the good thing about being slow is that you can actually watch things in slow motion come past. So it's you clever people with your fast thinking that you're just too fast on these things. For slow ones like me, it's like, oh, there's a thought. What's happening in that thought? Oh, no, that's not my thought. I'll let it go. So there's definite advantages of being a little bit dim and slow. Does that make sense, Annette? Or was it just, didn't you really want to go down the rabbit hole and just wanted to know, it's like, hey, is anybody else picking this up?
Yeah, so for me, it's just kind of a process of making sense of what I'm experiencing, and especially trying to be aware of what happens, and then as it unfolds, like in patterns, to just be aware of it and start realizing how many layers of patterning there is, you know. So yeah, it's just an interesting how there's something here like that jumps to like a certain humanness, and I think I'm still on the journey of trying to understand what human actually is, because there's also just a female Homo sapien interacting with the tribe, and then there's signaling, there's picking up, and then there's a idea or a concept here of an identity, and then of the masks and the programs and all of that. But actually, bottom line, I realized that there's a constant, like I want to say a constant suffering that I feel maybe we have created, thinking we are more than just a species interacting with each other. We've created, or maybe we became conscious, or maybe there's an entertainment factor of an individualization, but there is very little individualization actually. It's just this ebb and flow, and yeah, there's a delusion here. And in this telepathy thing, it was just suddenly I realized I was watching this the system going through programming of, was it me projecting, was it really that person's thoughts, and then then there was a back to me going, oh, how am I going to fix this, because now I spoke out of turn, or shall I explain myself? And then I didn't, I just watched it all, and it carried on, and even later on, so it kept coming back to me, because I think these social structures that we have within our clan, our tribe, we have created so much bullshit on top of it. And that's the humanness, I think, that we are suffering, because there's actually nothing going on. And we get trapped in the idea of, oh, I said that, I shouldn't have, or maybe they interpreted it like this, or maybe it wasn't my thought, maybe I projected it. Oh no, maybe they were thinking this. And it's just this madness making, it's a crazy making process. And I'm just watching it all, and by not reacting to it, actually quite phenomenal, because I don't think it's something new. I think it's the telepathy the word I'm giving it is maybe that it's more just of this interspecies signaling, survival signaling, belonging, social signaling, like animals have. And we've just elevated to some kind of a, I don't know, suffering, painful system that, I don't know, we've created value systems of individualization, and it's not, I don't know, it's just a weird feeling. So maybe I'm off topic here, and maybe it's completely weird, but just watch it.
No,
It's interesting.
no, you're completely on topic because, like in the stages, basically the way I wrote the stages down was top down, but we can also go from bottom up. So if you go bottom up through the stages, then first is that awareness of interconnectedness of the species is actually a good one. How to look at it. So so on that, as the awareness from the bottom up slowly opens up instead of top down closing up, which is basically how it works. See, like from top down will be wide open in the beginning, and then it slowly filters and closes down those filters, narrows those filters. From the top up, bottom up is those filters slowly opening up, which I think is actually a better way to grow and incorporate it as you go. So as your awareness opens into the essence, and we can look at that essence as the soul of humanity, the group soul. So if we look at the animals, some people will say, well, animals don't have an individual soul, but they have a group soul. So as a species, there's an understanding and a link within that species that communicate with each other. And we can say that that is an animal soul or animal group soul, but part of being human is that we are still animal, and that's the part that we deny, and that's the part that we actually don't want to admit. But we are animals, so we have that species, that group soul, human group soul as an animal group soul. I'm not talking the higher group soul, I'm talking the fundamental animal, on the animal level of a inter or interspecies communication system, like the 100 monkey effect. Like, okay, how do you explain that on that island? Monkeys will learn it, and then at a certain tipping point, everybody, all the other monkeys basically in the world picks up that habit or that tool or whatever. So there's a fundamental connection, but on a species level. And we forget that. So everything that we experience, we share into the group, the species field, the human field, the human species field. Now, by placing ourselves above that and thinking that we're more than animals, we miss that whole thing. So we've missed that group connection. And I think with awareness, that's kind of what, and as we move through, the awareness will grow on many levels, but one of them is our group essence. So essence is a very good word for it. So it's the human group essence, what it means to be a part of human Homo sapiens as a species.
Yeah, so these are different awarenesses that obviously I think is it's just interesting to watch how that is there. Like you say, we've ignored it, and because there's just for me, there's just like I'm realizing that that's always at play, and what I'm kind of pointing at is that there's a there's a interspecies group soul, human animal. Um, let's call it consciousness for that matter, or bandwidth that we are ignoring, and that is actually still fundamentally very, very potent and powerful. And that there's a simpleness in it, and there's a forgiveness in it, and there's a group dynamic, a flow, a natural unfolding. There's natural laws there that I realize we just created so much drama around that. And it's the drama stuff that, but I'm just talking from my own experience. And I was watching my own old programs wanting to play out, but not allowing that. So responding to it rather than reacting to it. Just letting it be and realizing that there's nothing to be said here. There's nothing to, it was like there's this system that was just running off, trying to make sense of why did I say that? What will they think? What am I thinking? Is it them? Is it my telepathy? Realizing that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, and it's like it's always there, but it's so subtle. And I realized just from my own experience that in the past I used to react to those patterns, and now I'm letting it just sit, and it's uncomfortable because it's like, oh, I need to fix it. Oh, I need to ask. Maybe I should. And I'm like, no, just it's okay. It's okay. Everything's okay. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
yeah, yeah. We can look at that quite deeply as well, because we call it different things.
Yeah.
Um, some of it will be instincts. So a certain thing is inborn in all human, in the human, in the human ape. So that we share with our ape brothers and stuff like um, reacting to a snake. So that's just hardwired into most monkeys, apes, and into us. So if a snake like comes close to us, we have that natural reaction to it. And even if you love snakes and want to go play and catch it, if it strikes at you're going to react immediately.
So I want to say that it's not about delving deep into that, because it's that kind of stuff like snake stuff, and that for me is in the rep, the amygdala, the reptilian. It's more the limbic system, the social interactions, the social cues, the emotional kind of connections, our tribal connections, because that is a lot in the subconscious, and I think that's where a lot of our programming is being challenged right now. Because I mean, the direct physical fear thing. I mean, I think we all understand that to a large extent. But I think our limbic social structures, and what I'm saying is that there's an identification with that, maybe from a individual soul, and like you were saying, like there's the higher soul, so there's the human animal group soul. Then you were pointing at a higher soul kind of thing.
But okay, before we get into that, because like you say, as we go through reptilian, um, limbic, prefrontal cortex, because and on the subconscious, there's the group animal consciousness, but then there's also the higher level of the archetypes.
Yeah.
So that group archetypes is a powerful group dynamic force
Yeah.
that's been with us for many, many, many years. So that also comes into play. So if you're not nailed by the direct instinct fear, then you go through to the animal survival fear, to the human
group
consciousness, group consciousness fears. So, but those are all fears that we have to actually look at and
dissolve.
not. Yeah, first one is to not claim any of it.
Well, it's the ego that claims, because the ego is the one that, I mean, those fears have created the ego.
Yeah.
Because it was a coping mechanism. The idea, the individualization of Sinet is, in fact, a belief system to cope with the fear that is maybe cannot be understood. But as we start understanding it, and as we grow up, you realize it's yeah. So and in fact, as you face the fear, then the ego dissolves. The idea of separation dissolves. So it's like this constant in and out thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So once we go back to the stages, is that okay? First of all, if we're caught up in it and we're busy all the time, we don't have time to think or see these things. So the first thing that we have to do is go into the silence or start quieting down. And that's where all the mindfulness and meditation and all that kind of stuff is, all the awareness of all the senses. All that stuff is just good practice, just to start slowing all of this information down a little bit. And then as we can allow ourselves moments of the in-between, because as the thoughts come and or as all these like information come, there is little pauses in between. So if we can grab onto those pauses and stretch them a little bit, or at least notice those pauses and stretch onto them without grabbing onto them. Wrong choice of words. Because as you're trying to grab, you're not going to hold it, then it's going to disappear. But if you can just allow yourself to sink into that momentary pause and for longer and longer, because then you are now able to look at all these things like you just said. So you're now at a space where you can go into the silence enough or into yourself enough to step away from it, to see these fears as things flowing that you are noticing. And the more we can do that, separate from my fear into just having that little bit of space of seeing it as a fear that's coming from somewhere. If it's mine, if it's somebody else's, if it's an archetypal fear, is it animal fear, is it instinctual fear, it doesn't matter. The thing is that I can look at it as a fear. And once I can look at it without claiming it as any sort of fear, or without jumping to conclusions, because the mind wants to do that. It wants to resolve things. It wants to like put things in a box and define it and have a reason for it being there. But if you can stay in the uncertainty and just having a look at it and say, whoa, there's a fear. And then you can choose. Do I want to engage with it? Do I want to go see where it is? What's the archetype? What's my shadow? Where is it in the body? I can now choose to engage with that fear on all 9 levels. Or I can just simply just let it go.
Yeah, I just don't think it's something that, it's you can intellectualize it, and it's all fair and well when you're in a meditative state or whatever. But living life in the present, the thing is that are so many there are fears on every level of this awakening path. And in fact, I think what actually happens is there's bigger fears as we expand than the collapsed ones of there's a snake, you know. Um, and I think that that is our challenge here is the lower vibrational, the more dense fears are actually not the ones to be worried about because we've survived it. And I think we are facing, the higher fears, which is the unknown and the dissolving and the dissolving of self, the dissolving of separation, and it's a big thing because it's like it's quite scary. It's quite scary. So that like what I experienced was like, oh my word, looking at it, I was like, oh gosh, this is actually quite scary. Imagine we can actually all because it's like we do all know because there is only one knowing and it knows everything all the time, all at once. So yeah, so becoming aware of that is in layers, and it is scary. It's damn scary. It's not something easy, And I'm not like I'm scared of it, but
No, but it's no, you're 100% correct. Because remember, the more subtle, the more powerful. The we always confuse that. We think force and will is going to be the waves on the beach is the most powerful thing.
yeah,
But
no.
those are, that's not. It's like what's more powerful than that? The tides. And the tides are a subtle thing. You don't see it, you don't like, but it's going to lift everything. So as we go into these deeper levels of fear, they are exponentially more terrifying.
Yeah,
And I'm using that word on purpose because it's terrifying.
it's
They,
terrifying.
it's not a nice journey. It's like, ooh, look
It's
at
not
my
a snake,
fear.
I promise you. It's not a snake or a hoja or a or a high mountain or you're gonna fall off. It's not an adrenaline thing. And I think do you think that do you think man, do you think we've overcome all the fears that are physical? We've distracted ourselves with all this adrenaline stuff and we are I don't know, it's like, I wonder.
Finish that
Yeah,
thought. I don't think I grasped you finishing that sentence.
So I did stop because I'm pondering on my question is I wonder if humanity has come to we've exhausted, how can I say, we've overcome all the fears that are like distractions, and we're having to face the higher fears, the real stuff,
Mm.
the dissolving of separation. There's the unknown, the void, the it's like, because even with creating artificial humans, we even overcoming, like even that is kind of like I almost feels like it's all just distractions, all the lower fears have been just ways to distract ourselves from
Mm.
the ultimate fear, which is the unknown and the dissolving into the void. And because we all come from it and we all know it very, very well. It's almost like maybe we've just come full cycle, and I don't know. I'm just contemplating. I'm just kind of, I don't know. I just realized it's like people think this is all beautiful and it's all love and light and it's like all bliss, and it's not. It's actually not. It's damn scary. It's damn scary. And it's not the things we think. It's not out there. It's not chogos and snakes and AI and aliens. It's very much an internal dissolving, and yeah.
Yes, I'm glad you summed that up so nicely. Chogos and AI and aliens. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's not any of that.
No.
Because, yeah, like you say, it's becoming more subtle than that.
They're distractions.
Yeah.
And it's not working.
Yeah, it's not working as well as it was.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to control the gross than the subtle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's much easier to control somebody by hitting them than mentally manipulating them to really like having control over their thoughts and program like fear patterns into them. But as you go down, once we can start looking at our programs, our belief systems, all those programs that respond to fear, we start dissolving that, and we can start not claiming our fears as ours. Then once again, it becomes a more subtle, because now it's not the fear that is the terrifying thing. It's the uncertainty that's terrifying, the not knowing.
Yeah.
The knowing the fear is fine. That's why it's good to face the fear and to face your shadow and to face all your negative and bad thoughts and whatever you think, everything that you are guilty or feel ashamed for, all those things, bring them into the light, look at them, and then understand the fear, understand the programming behind that, the coping mechanism, the protective tools that you're using that has formed your belief systems, which is triggering your emotions, which is triggering your thoughts, and that whole process. So once you understand all of that, then you can start. Now we're sinking into the real kind of fears, where there is that uncertainty. But even if we start stepping through that, if we can make peace with uncertainty, and we can start letting go of all the ideas and stories that define us as a identity or an ego. See, as we go through that and we let go of all the false beliefs of who and what we are, and we can start getting more comfortable in the confusion and in the unknowing, in the discomfort of not knowing and not having a clear path and all that. Then we start coming closer to the ultimate fear, which is the one that I describe as standing on the edge of the abyss. So all of those, even in the uncertainty and the unknown, there's still territory that we can navigate. Once we get to that precipice on that edge of the abyss, there is just pure fear. That's the unadulterated, pure fear, most fear that you will experience in your life. Because everything is going to be fighting. All the levels, all the body, the ego is literally fighting for its life, because if you, everything in your, every cell in you knows that when you take that step, that you're jumping into the complete unknown. And that's normally where people will turn away. And for me, I think it's that it was, there's just a point of not caring anymore. It's like, I've just had enough. You know, all of this, all the doubts, all the fears, all the thinking, all the like reasoning, all of the learning, all the like, all the stuff is just enough. It's like, how did that work for me up to now? Well, clearly not. So what is left to lose to jump? And you basically have to just go, what the fuck? Just go stuff it and jump. And that is the point where it's a complete surrender into just the complete unknown, and surrender and jumping into the fear full force. So all of this is practice for that moment. So having all of these ideas, all of these fears, picking everything up, working through all the shadow work, everything that we've been doing, the whole awakening process, the awareness, the choices that we have, all of this is leading up to that moment of, and it's not a rejection of fear, it's a total acceptance of fear. It's dissolving into complete fear, and then the expression of complete love. And those two happen within the unity of unconditional love. Just stop and let the silence embrace you. Sink into the silence, surrender into this. Just stop, let the silence embrace you. So, thank you very much.